Wilmington, we'll see how. We'll also discuss the size versus speed issue, and we'll scout Minnesota as the Little Brown Jug battle looms ahead. All that and more coming up next.
Marines beat Indiana in Bloomington 31-3, but a sluggish start and a sluggish second half. You'll take the win, but boy, there's a lot for you to work on, isn't there?
Well, I think so, Jim, but I'm very happy because we were supposed to have the down week, which we didn't have, and our defense played extremely well. When you can hold a team to under 150 yards total offense, sack a quarterback 9 times, you got to feel pleased, and quit self-destructing on offense. We had 2 touchdowns called back. We had too many major penalties that took us out of scoring opportunities.
You talked about coming back. You were supposed to have a down week after Michigan State and Iowa back-to-back. That didn't happen. You say that says something about the character of this club.
I think this team does have good focus. I'm quite proud the way they go to work on our Tuesday and Wednesday practices, and we got to keep it up, though. That's the thing. We can't start patting ourselves on the back too soon.
Well, I don't think you have to pat yourselves on the back because in the first possession, Indiana started patting themselves on the back and put you on the defensive.
Right. They come out here, and a couple times we had the coverages mixed up, but they come out, and this is a very fine receiver, Lewis, and Green can throw the football. One thing that helped us throughout the game, we got some pressure to him. You're going to see in a minute. But here they hit their tight end, and Hale had a big day over the middle. He's a hard kid to tackle. You got to tackle those tight ends a little lower than what we tried to do, but I think he had 10 catches, and they open up the game with a 3-0 lead.
Now, in your first 2 possessions, you can't do anything with them, and they get the ball back.
Right, we had a couple blocking adjustments that we just messed up on. Then here Matt Dyson's coming, getting good pressure. Buster Stanley knocks the ball loose, and, well, it was a big loss, but we should have recovered that fumble there. We had the opportunity. Here Derek Alexander gets a timely block after a pass from Elvis and gets out on a quick screen type of a pass.
Then you seem to get more confidence offensively after you got the ball from their short punt, get it down inside the 10 here on Tyrone Wheatley. You seem to be a more confident offensive player.
Yeah, we were. And then here we come back, and we did this to him last year with Desmond, but Elvis hitting Derek Alexander. Derek has had 4 touchdowns, Jim, this year, and he's had 3 touchdowns called back. And you can't hurt yourself in that respect. Here, Wheatley, now, we had some holes in there. We had some good blocking. The first 2 possessions, we had major breakdowns in blocking schemes, but then we come back with a nice screen pass here. Joe Cacuzo, Steve Everett splitting the seam, and then Wheatley taking it in on the screen.
At 14-3 now, did you feel like, well, at least we're, into the game a little bit, even though Indiana wasn't out of it?
Right, I did, and then they come back again, and they give us some odd formations that our kids messed up a little the adjustments on. They got big runs there, but they didn't get touchdowns. That's the key. And then here you'll see a play where Steve Morrison, the backside linebacker, comes over, grabs the ball, pops it loose. Corwin Brown juggles it for a moment, finally picks it up, and returns it about 15, 17 yards.
And you got to get turnovers in a game like this to take their crowd out of it, and that did it. And then, Tyrone Wheatley kind of takes the crowd out of it himself.
Right, we run a good counter play here. He makes a good move, and then this shows his speed where he just outruns a would-be tackler. And those are the kind of things that really turn it around.
That's your coaching ability, right?
That's my coaching.
You coached him on that?
Right there I am.
Yeah, there you are. Okay. Then Indiana comes back, 3rd and 2, and another fumble. They turn it over. And this is starting to really get good to you. This is what you needed to have happen to get some breaks.
Right. When you're playing good defense, those things will happen, and you got to take advantage of it. Then we're going to drive down here. Jesse runs a draw in here for good yardage. We come back and we get down here again. You're going to see we're going to score, but we knock ourselves out of the field position.
This is Jesse Johnson again on the draw, getting yourself in real good position, close to the goal line. Then on 3rd and 4, nice play. Jesse Johnson wide open, goes in for the supposed score, but the penalty.
Well, that's one of those embarrassing things, and I guess you got to blame the head coach there, Jim. I'm calling the offensive plays, 12 men on the field, and we lose the down as well as the yardage, but Pete does come in and kick a nice field goal here.
24-3 at that point, and you got to feel good about it, but big turn of events. Indiana punts the ball away. They get a penalty on Michigan, so they punt it a second time. This is the second time, and they probably would have liked to have had this back.
Right. Derek Alexander does a good job here making some moves, and I think he demonstrates some excellent speed as you see him pull away right here. He does have speed. He's a very excitable young man. He's starting to get a feel for that, and he enjoys going back on those punt returns. He likes to have the ball underneath his arm, and he does something with it.
Boy, he sure does. 31-3 at half. That touchdown by Derek Alexander on the punt return in less than I think a minute to go in the half. Did that break their back, do you think?
Oh, I think, yes, because, you know, every 4 games now, they've had something big happen for them, our opponents have. And this time it happened for us, and I think it made a whale of a difference.
It made a whale of a difference, even though the second half wasn't that exciting. Michigan had it salted away. We'll be back. We'll take a look at those highlights. But first, we hear from the man who broke the Hoosiers back on that run.
Indiana came out with playing on a lot of emotion, and we just had to settle down. We're on the road. The fans were into the game, and, you know, once we settled down, we got to go together. I think they over-pursued a little bit to the right side, and, you know, I cut it back to the left, and it was like no one out there. Had a couple blockers in front of me, some good blocking, so, you know, that enabled me to go all the way.
Not to let them get any holes in our offense. They run a lot of ISOs, a lot of sweeps. We kept them on the line, create a new line of scrimmage, so we stopped them. That's what we did. This team's coming together. Our defense is getting better week to week.
Defense certainly came together, as Tony Henderson said, in the second half. 31-3 was the halftime score. Nothing happened in the second half, no scoring. And I know that's not what you wanted when you went in the locker room at half. You wanted to come out and you wanted to be aggressive and put some more points up.
Yes, you want your defense to continue playing like it was, but the offense has to score points. That's what it's out there for. And we're going to see, and we're going to figure out ways to stay away from 9 penalties again to keep us out of the end zone. Because in big games, Jim, that's going to make the difference.
The one thing you can count on, though, when you play good defense, and you had Indiana, for the most part, bottled up, tremendous pressure on the quarterback.
Right. There's no question about that. Hutchinson did well, and I think he had 3 sacks, Jim, and the pressure was tremendous, and that really made the difference.
You get 3rd and 15 here, and you're starting to, you know, move the football. You got some things going, and that's the key to, I think, the offense. But then you self-destruct down the road. But this is one of Elvis's better throws in this drive.
Stepped up in the pocket there. And, Jim, in here, before we show this, we should remember that he got sacked on a couple occasions, and we kept talking about him, okay, just keep your head up and looking downfield. Here's Eddie Davis coming up on a draw, because so often your quarterbacks will start looking at the rush and the pressure. Then here we throw a nice ball by Elvis to Derek Alexander in the corner. Another touchdown. It's called back because we have a holding call or a pushing in the back by one of our linemen.
And that's what you can't have.
No, we can't have that. And we attempt a field goal here, and we hook it wide right. I think Pete looked up a little quick on that. He's got to keep his head down.
So you have 2 touchdowns called back by penalty. You had a good drive going. How mad were you?
Well, I was mad. Needless to say, you know, I always feel, you know, you got to get in there. I hate to punt, but you got to put points on the board when you get scoring opportunities. And penalties are a part of discipline. And that way we got to start getting in a better focus. Now, Jesse ran the ball. Now Eddie Davis comes back with a good run here at 30-some yards. Puts us in field position. There's a couple, about a minute to go in the game. We're driving down here, and on 4th down, we tried Jesse up inside. He gets hit in the backfield trying to dive over and drops the football. It's our only turnover of the day, and as you indicated, Indiana had several of them, which we took advantage of.
31-3 is the final. No scoring in the second half. You know, a nice victory, but, you know, we talked earlier this season in a game, you got a bad taste in your mouth a little bit, having a big lead and then not doing anything with it in the second half. Does this game leave you with that same taste?
Right. If it would have happened the other way around with a poor first half and a tremendous second half, then you'd feel good about yourself. So it weighs itself out, but you know what you have to work on. But again, you know, 31 points, and they get 3s, not all bad, and you got to be happy with that.
You talked about discipline. How do you coach discipline? How do you coach no penalties?
Well, I've been talking about it for 3 weeks, but I think I'm listening to myself, and some people aren't hearing me. So I think we'll have to do some other things as far as maybe a little disciplinary action for those people, because really what they're doing is taking away from the team when you do those things, and you just got to keep your cool. I will say on most occasions, Jim, that it's younger kids. But younger kids, if they're going to play, if you're going to play as a freshman in sophomore, you got to be responsible for your actions so it doesn't hurt the team.
We had a very speedy day against the Hoosiers.
going back to previous games, like the Houston, Shante with their interception, Corin Brown a couple of weeks ago with the fumble recovery, and this week again, I think it was Corin with the fumble recovery again. So the guys go out there and they play tremendous defense, and they just set us up very well. When you have your defense out there playing hard like they did, and they get us a turnover like that, you almost have to owe it to them to come back with a play like that, because the guys go out there and they work very hard.
Speed and how badly they want to improve it. But can you have that speed and still maintain size that is also vital? As a matter of fact, size isn't a problem, according to Michigan strength and conditioning coach Mike Gittleson.
When we started in '78 in strength training, large and extra large were the size of shoulder pads. 50% of the team had a size 11.5 shoe. Today, the shoulder pads are double XLs, triple XLs, and 50% of the kids have a 13 shoe or better.
So size is certainly available, and maybe, according to Gittleson, coaches must adjust their thinking on the size versus speed issue.
These coaches, remember, many of them coached before weight training was ever in college football. And many of them had to accept that the players are bigger and larger now. Now they have to accept that, geez, these guys are not only bigger and larger, they can still run.
But can you coach speed? Can you make someone faster? The answer is yes, but you need some God-given help to do it.
The number one thing is genetics. You got to have great genetics. That's why we recruit. You go out and find the people that are gifted. And then you got to bring it out of them what they already have. And if we're fortunate to select the right kids, and I work hard and they work hard, we can bring it out of them. And, you know, of course, there's tremendous examples of that. I think Elvis Gerbeck is, you know, a gangly 211-pound kid who's now 231 or 232 and has almost decreased his 44-10 since he's been in college.
So speed can, in some cases, be an acquired gift. But for the most part, speed, if you want it on your team, must be recruited. Maybe a more telling barometer on the size versus speed issue is not gaining speed at all. According to Gittleson, adding size and maintaining speed is where we should focus the debate.
But I think the great examples are the kids like Steve Everett, who was a fast kid out of high school, who is no faster today, but no slower. Yet he weighed 225, and now he's 290. You know, and that's where it's at. Now, put in all that size, keep all your quickness, and now be a big man. I mean, that's where it is. That's weight training.
Size versus speed. Well, what did you think about
Coming up on College Coaches Poll next.
in a sluggish second half? You'll take the win, but boy, there's a lot for you to work on, isn't there?
Well, I think so, Jim, but I'm very happy because we were supposed to have the down week, which we didn't have, and our defense played extremely well. When you can hold a team to under 150 yards total offense, sack a quarterback 9 times, you got to feel pleased. I'm quite proud the way they go to work on our Tuesday and Wednesday practices, and we got to keep it up, though. That's the thing. We can't start patting ourselves on the back too soon.
Well, I don't think you have to pat yourselves on the back because in the first possession, Indiana started patting themselves on the back and put you on the defensive.
Right. They come out here, and a couple times we had the coverages mixed up, but they come out, and this is a very fine receiver, Lewis, and Green can throw the football. One thing that helped us throughout the game, we got some pressure to him. You're going to see in a minute. But here they hit their tight end, and Hale had a big day over the middle. He's a hard kid to tackle. You got to tackle those tight ends a little lower than what we tried to do, but I think he had 10 catches, and they open up the...
We'll see how. We'll also discuss the size versus speed issue, and we'll scout Minnesota as the Little Brown Jug battle looms ahead. All that and more coming up next.
Marines beat Indiana in Bloomington 31-3, but a sluggish start.
And quit self-destructing on offense. We had 2 touchdowns called back. We had too many major penalties that took us out of scoring opportunities.
You talked about coming back. You were supposed to have a down week after Michigan State and Iowa back-to-back. That didn't happen. You say that says something about the character of this club.
I think this team does have good focus.